Welcome to the One More Thing podcast. I'm Dr. Troy Doucet, and I'm here with Dr. Larry Baucom.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome, man. Well, I had the pleasure of watching the sermon from Dallas this weekend as I was, visiting the kiddos, and Adelaide and I were watching from the bedroom. I had my laptop, and it was a really good sermon. Week 3 of real change.
Right.
And what was interesting, you began with a pretty eye-opening, what I would call like an exercise of evaluation, where you used your father-in-law's death and this continuance of remembrance as sort of this thing that solidifies in your family's mind, like his life and its worth, and you guys are constantly remembering him each year. And you asked a question like, what do you want to be said about you when your life is over? Because all of our lives are going to end,
right,
and things are going to be said. And you made the analogy like we continue to say things about him 21 years later. Some of us will be lucky if people say something for 21 minutes. How is that sort of exercise of thinking about that related to what James is trying to teach us, is what authentic life change is really about, real change?
Yeah, I think that's what he's really dealing with. James goes back, and the basic premise of James is, faith without works. Mm-hmm. People say, I believe this, I believe that. Even the demons believe and shudder. What James is saying, there's something more substantive than just your intellectual thought process or your intellectual assent. Some people say faith is intellectual assent. I think that may be true, but faithfulness is what you do. It's where the rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. And at the end of your journey and the end of my journey, the joke I told there, when I'm dead and they lay me out in front of the church and everybody walks by, what do I want them to say? Probably the most coveted thing is, oh, he's still breathing. I mean, and Mike Paterno could not let that go. He was just he just couldn't quit laughing to the point where it made me chuckle a little bit. But it's an old joke. I mean, I've heard it, and most people have probably already heard it. But at the end of our journey, and I think about my father-in-law, what do I want? We remember him for being a family man who listened well, who poured into his family. He trusted God with his life. He was consistent with the way he lived his life, and he just lived it as a kind person. Mm. He was very successful as a businessman, but he helped people. He helped kids that he saw growing up. He paid their way through college. Mm-hmm. He did things that people had no idea. Mm-hmm. Back in the old days, I remember his pastor was a friend of mine who was a church leader. I was with him one day. He said, "Let me tell you about your father-in-law." He said, he was on my board, and he was the most affluent, influential guy on the board. He had enough resource, so he had a lot of money. But he's the guy that when they built a building, he's the guy who did it. When they bought property, he's the guy who did it. So, they wanted to do bus ministry. This is back, in the 70s. And they said bus ministry is a big thing. And they said, your father-in-law was not for it. Mm-hmm. He said, look, we barely have enough teachers for the kids we have, and you want to bus kids from all over town into our church. He said it creates a problem for us, and he was the Sunday school superintendent. So he'd have to get more teachers. Yep. There's burnout. There's all kinds of things. You're dealing with kids that are not highly disciplined sometimes, and they can create all kinds of havoc. So he had a legitimate complaint.
Right.
But the board decided that this program was so important that they overruled and they followed the leader, which is a pastor, and this one guy, my father-in-law, was overruled, and he lost. And then this leader came to me and said, "And you know what he did?" And I thought, no, I know what some of them have done to me. They bit my butt, and I've just had a lot of pain because of one I call him Mr. Pibb, Mr. Pain in the Butt. Every church has a Mr. Pain in the Butt, and if yours doesn't have it, then it's you. But I say Mr. Pibb as a church guy. There's always one guy on my board, and I didn't want my father-in-law to be that. But as he was describing him, I thought, oh, he's his Mr. Pibb. He's his pain in the butt. I said, what did he say? So your father-in-law came to me the next day at a big church picnic, and he went up beside me, put his arm around me. He said, I want to let you know, I don't agree with what happened in the board, but I'm a team player, and I want to buy the first bus.
Come on.
And I just went, wow.
Wow.
That's a legacy.
That's awesome.
That's not a Mr. Pibb. Hey, you make your spiel, but I understand how this works, and sometimes it doesn't go my way.
Yeah.
But I still am going to support the entire program, even when it doesn't go my way. That's the kind of legacy I'd like to leave, to where if someone says, he had his own mind, he was a strong leader, but he loved people, and he was not going to be a splinter or Mr. Pibb.
That's right.
To other people around him. So so I give tribute. His name was Frank Kraft.
Yeah.
And that's Becky's dad. And I just, he's a mentor to me, a man of God. And I just, someday, I want to leave a legacy like that.
That's right. Man, that's a powerful story, because you said something that struck me, because we go through life and we all, I think, deep down have a desire to leave a type of legacy, and we frame and appropriate those ideas differently. Like for you and I, like you said it from the stage, like between the both of us, we have more degrees and diplomas than we could shake a stick at.
Right.
Yours is a PhD from Florida State, which is a secular university, in hermeneutics and humanities, interpreting ancient texts. Mine is my PhD's from the University of Texas in philosophy and history of ideas. So we understand like these biblical texts and these narratives and the languages and the cultures and the histories. But you said even, and I agree with you in this, that what James is trying to teach us is more than just that intellectual assent. And you and I have a type of intelligence, but other people's intelligence of the scriptures could be like the memorization of scripture.
Right.
So we have this educational, academic background. Some people read the Bible even more than I, or you probably read it and have it put to memory. But you said something, and again, I deeply agree with this, is that there's more.
Yeah.
So what's missing from what James is trying to teach us about authentic life change that has to go beyond simply understanding, memorizing, knowing, and believing these texts? Like what's missing from the distance between the head to the hands of actually living it out? I mean, you've been in ministry over 40 years. Like
and that's what James is trying to write. That's precisely it. He's saying, hey, it's not about what's in your head. It's not that the just shall live by faith. It's the just shall live by faithfulness. You show me your word. You say this is what you believe, but even the demons believe and shudder.
Yep.
Show me. Show me. And I think one of the things to evangelical Christianity or any arm of Christianity today, show me.
Yeah.
Show me how your heart has been affected. I love, and I've said this before about John Wesley, the founder of Methodism. He said, if something to this effect, if your heart has been warmed as my heart has been warmed, then take me by the hand. We're brothers. But we'd rather argue about our theological differences. And we get, I want to see your statement of faith to make sure I'm aligning myself with this creedal structure. And that's one of the reasons that years ago we pulled any statement of faith offline. We took it out of our vocabulary. We said, look, here's our statements, and we give our three values.
Yeah.
We're a hospital, not a courtroom. We try to inspire people to take responsibility for their lives, and everyone brings something to the table. Those three things are it.
Yep.
So do we all have to agree theologically? No. But breathe in, breathe out, smile.
Yeah.
I think the word kindness, if we could infuse something into the church world, into the Christian world, kindness about everything. And sometimes it's hard because I have to stand my ground.
Yeah.
And I have my shadow side, this dark side of me that always wants to, have this sword. I carry this sword with me. I just want to keep it in the sheath, but I don't want to give up the sword because it's the strength of personality and also the strength of leadership. But I think kindness, you can have all the strength in the world and still be kind. And I'll tell you a story. I went to dinner Sunday night with some friends. It was Mitch Burks and his wife and his brother Matthew and his girlfriend. And it was Grill Smith. We're there about 8 o'clock at night. And we get there first. We're there at 1 minute till 8, so we're first. And the lady takes us back, just a young, probably 20-year-old hostess. And she takes us back to the table, and it's 3 on each side. And Becky and I are trying to decide where to sit. Who's going to sit with whom, who would care, whether we should sit this way or that way. And the lady's like, "Can I help you?" I said, "No, we're just figuring out our seating chart." She goes, "Well, let me suggest women on one side, men on the other." And I said, "We've eaten out before." And later my wife said, "That was kind of rude." I said, "Yeah, it probably was." And as soon as I said it, I wish I'd said it a different way.
Yeah.
I wish I'd said, "Thank you so much. We'll figure it out." Would have been a lot better than we've eaten out before. It's just but it's at 8 o'clock at night, I'm not in my best place, and it's the first thing that came out of my mouth. And it was not it wasn't rude, and I was very polite to her and tipped her well, but I just did not want to. As soon as I said it, I thought, I could say that better, because it came across a little less than what I want to be. Now, and my justification is, hey, you see me as a gray-haired old guy that doesn't know how to sit down in a restaurant. You have to arrange my seating chart. I don't appreciate that kind of condescension. But my response was not bad, but I as soon as it happened, my wife said something later, but before she said anything, I thought, I really want to say things differently. I don't want to be that person that has that nasty remark, or at least pseudo that way. It's just not my best interest, and it's not. Who'd I sin against?
Yeah.
Me being the best version of me.
That's right.
That I could. So, which, let's segue to one more story since I'm on a roll. Went to the fair yesterday, and they had the biggest donuts at the fair you've ever seen. These things are humongous. They're like this big, and they're like $4 a piece or 3 for $10. How do I know? Because I paid for 2 batches of them. And did someone eat them? I said, no. Susan, when the officer said, did you have a donut? Oh, they're delicious. I said, no, I will not eat those, because those are sin. To me, that donut is sin. What is it? The donut itself? No. But if I want to be the best version of me that I can be, I need to not eat those.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I laugh and call them sin, because, one big donut like that, it's full of sugar and all the things that, we all love to eat.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's particularly, I'm trying to be healthy. That's not my best version to fall into the fair food.
There you go.
But, hey, I bought a lot of them, even though I didn't eat them. So I sinned against my grandkids.
Yeah.
But I didn't sin against me.
I mean, that's a good segue to what I thought was the most profound point of the sermon, because it wasn't only like theologically correct, it was absolutely practical for anyone. And I'd love your insight on this. You said something like, real change occurs when we see the results of our faithfulness. And I think, using your donut story, a lot of people just give up. Like your idea of kindness, they'll be kind, and then something bad happens to them. Someone's rude to them, and they give up. They're like, it's no use being kind, right? On a diet.
Yeah.
You try your diet, you try working out, and you're not seeing the results with the consistency or the faithfulness that you need to employ to see the results actually manifest. So in terms of spiritual life and spiritual formation development, like, what would you say to someone who's like given up on this whole idea of being faithful?
Right.
And why do we get caught in that rut? Is it because we live in a culture that we get mad if our fast food line isn't, if my computer doesn't download? Is it based on our need for convenience, or like, why is being faithful and consistent and then seeing those results like important when we may not be seeing them?
Well, I think that when you do the 3 R's, you take a moment and rest, and then you reflect and you remember. And I will tell you that I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a long way from where I was. And that's the results. I see that Christ has shaped my heart, and the love of God has helped me love people in a way that I never had before. And I think the old Baucom Sermon on the Mount add-on, blessed are the flexible. And change, believe it or not, is not always good. Sometimes we change and we do a lot of good things, and then all of a sudden we've done very well, and then we'll slip and we change and we're not where we want to be.
Right.
So we have to shift that around and go back again. So it's almost like this, if I were to graph it, I like to think that it's an up and down wavy line, always progressing in a better way. But there are some days I'm better than I am other days.
Yep.
But I am committed to keeping my focus. I'm aiming that bow and arrow. I'm aiming for hitting the mark.
Yeah.
And even when I don't, God knows my heart, and He goes, "Hey, you did well today." Well, I know, but I didn't. I know, but you aimed well, and keep aiming. And as you do, I think that progression happens, and we get better. But the results of seeing where we used to be, I think, motivates us to say, God has changed my heart. Is it completely perfect? Oh no. But it's so much better than I used to be. And I have a way to go, and I want His presence to guide me every day in a faithful way. and which I'm going to segue to this word faithfulness. Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about God having faith. Yet we transfer the same word talking about God's faithfulness, and we put it to humans have faith. No, God is faithful. He's always with us, always loves us, always care, and we're to live a life that reflects that.
Yeah.
Always there, always caring, always loving, always kind. But that presence, I think, it's what motivates me and changes me, and I see the results. And some days I go, boy, God, you are at work, because that's not where I was. And even when you say something, the moment you say it, you realize, I could say that better. That's the progression. It's not that we always say the right thing,
Right.
but we see it, and we realize in a moment, I could be better.
That's good, man. It's good stuff. Well, awesome. Well, this week will be, what, week 4?
That's right. And you're on this
I'm
week.
up. Yeah. So we're talking about real people. It's going to be a doozy. And we're going to have I'm bringing in a whole lot of perspective on what does it mean to be a real person.
Right.
Authentic person, someone who's genuine. And so I think it's going to be a game-changing sermon, man. And
I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait.
Me
Thanks
too.
for being here, man.
My pleasure. Thanks.